Hey everyone, welcome to the 5 Beer Plan. I'm Brian, and this is the ongoing saga of an Everyman's Ale Trail. Welcome to Season 5. In this episode, I reveal the next homebrew project, fire up some new equipment for a journey back in time, get to know Britt from Weird Sisters Tap House and Brewery, and review Hemel and Ard from Brewery des Moulins. But before we get this party started, here is this episode's burning question. What is your favorite Imperial Stout that is not barrel-aged? I had to do a little bit of research on this, but according to Untappd, mine is Chocolate Pot de Creme from Hubbard's Cave out of Niles, Illinois. My wife found this one at my favorite bottle shop, Harvest, in Holland, Ohio. Coming in at 12% ABV, this was a dark and viscous stout with a massive chocolate aroma and a hint of vanilla. Smooth and silky on the tongue, finishes with a boozy dark chocolate as it warms. This also happened to be my 3000th unique check-in. Special indeed. Alright folks, for this new historical segment called Steeped in Tradition, fire up your imaginations and grab a pint, because it's time to step inside the Mash Shift Drive, the only time-traveling contraption powered by grain, curiosity, and questionable garage engineering. Here's how it works. I heat up a historical grain bill, dial in a mash schedule that would make a physicist sweat, and when the enzymes start breaking down starches and the laws of space-time, a shimmering portal opens to another era of beer. So buckle up. Today, we're taking the Mash Shift Drive on a journey to ancient Samaria to explore the brews, the stories, and the people who shape beer as we know it. Let's shift the mash and shift through time. Engage. It is widely accepted by historians and archaeologists alike that the Sumerians were the first to brew beer somewhere between 5,000 and 6,000 years ago. Water was essential to these ancient cultures, and so ancient Samaria was located in the northern part of what is known as the Fertile Crescent, conveniently nestled between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers. This area stretches from modern-day Iraq and into parts of Syria. As the region's name implies, it benefited from these two massive rivers bordering the area for farming and sustenance. This area became home to the Sumerians and was later considered the cradle of civilization. Some of their inventions, such as written language, codes of law, and literature, have had major worldwide implications. They were the first to use copper for weapons, logs as wheels to transport heavy items, and employ astronomy to track heavenly objects. Cities such as Kish, Uruk, and Ur were major trading posts in the region. A large walled ruin, a ziggurat, still stands at Uruk, where up to 80,000 Sumerians would have lived. Biblically speaking, Ur is Abraham's birthplace, and the plain of Shinar may very well be where the Tower of Babel narrative took place. Sadly, side effects of this growing civilization were constant infighting of the kings of the various city-states. This resulted in the development of war formations and even siege weapons. This inner turmoil also had the effect of leaving the Sumerians vulnerable to outside invaders from other cultures. So let's get back to beer. Archaeologists have uncovered ancient tablets showing brewing in their civilization and clay seals depicting the enjoyment of beer at banquets. The original Sumerian brewers were likely women. The Sumerians even had a goddess of beer named Ninkasi. An excerpt from beerandbrewing.com, which was taken from the Oxford Companion to Beer, notes the following about Ninkasi. In the oldest written recipe known to archaeologists, they praise the goddess Ninkasi, whose name means lady who fills the mouth. A brewer to the gods, Ninkasi taught mankind to make beer too, which they called kas. In a hymn to the goddess, they described her as the one who waters the malt set on the ground. You are the one who bakes the bapir malt in the great oven. You are the one who soaks the malt in a jar. The waves rise, the waves fall. Finally, Ninkasi is the one who pours the fragrant beer in the Latin vessel, which is like the Tigris and Euphrates joined. What exactly comprised the beer is still a little bit of a mystery. As this hymn suggests, the beer would have used the bapir malt as a base. It is thought that accidental fermentation of this bapir malt may very well have been the origin of the beer. Since grain was such a staple and could be hard to come by, stored grain could start to sprout, and in an effort not to waste it, they would make bread. The enzymes within the starches would be converted to sugar upon heating, and anyone worth their salt knew what to do with it. In this culture, beer was healthy, pleasantly mood-altering, and full of nutrients and calories. It sounds a little bit like mother's milk or lambdas bread to me. It's thought that this liquid was so thick it had to be sipped through a special kind of filtration straw. Archaeologists have discovered shards of pottery dotted with calcium oxalate, a deposit from grain also known as beer stone. The Sumerian written character for beer even pictures a type of jar, wide at the base and narrowing at the top. Sounds a little bit like a fermentation vessel, doesn't it? Well, because brewers are naturally inquisitive, some commercial breweries have tried their hand at recreating this recipe. The earliest modern attempt was made in 1989 by Anchor Brewing Company in San Francisco, California. They worked with Sumerian scholar Miguel Seville to brew Ninkasi, a version of the ancient ale. They noted its dryness, lack of bitterness, and thickness requiring straws. More recently in the 2010s, Great Lakes Brewing in Cleveland, Ohio, collaborated with the University of Chicago's Oriental Institute, now ISAC, to create several versions, including Enkabrew and Gilgamesh, experimenting with clay pots and ancient techniques. A tasting event was held and sold out in 48 hours. So what would one do if they tried to brew and consume this ancient beer? Well, you'd use historically available ingredients such as barley, emmer wheat, date syrup, honey, and water. Make some bapir, this twice-baked bread, and ferment it in clay vessels. What results is a tangy, sour, cider-like beverage that is not bitter like modern beer because no hops are used. Serve the concoction thick, and to be historically accurate, drink with straws from jugs. I like drinking sour beers as much as the next person, but this would certainly take a little bit of getting used to. What about you? What do you think? In this segment of Homebrew Hijinks, where I document my homebrew adventures, I roll out the next project. As I entered into my next season of homebrewing, I realized that there was a style I have not yet brewed that is certainly one of my favorites to drink. It's a little bit spicy, a bit estery, a bit dry, and most of all, highly carbonated. Any ideas yet? Well, if you guessed Saison, then you're right. My original concept for this attempt was to add some grapefruit peel either at flame out or during fermentation to give it a bit of citrus brightness. But I've done a little bit of reflecting on my brewing history. If there is one thing I might have done differently, it would be to stay away from adjuncts a bit more and try to brew to style without the extras. Brew a beer once, and then slightly tweak it to see how it differs. So that's the idea here. Next episode, I start up the boil on my Saison, a ray of sunshine. Now, it's time for Barstool Banter. In this episode, I sit down with Britt Slechter from Weird Sisters Tap House and Brewery in North Charleston, South Carolina. We talk about the history and meaning of this year-old brewery, her approach to beers and origin story, and the concept of what she and Thad wanted Weird Sisters to be. Welcome to Barstool Banter. I'm sitting down with Britt Slechter from Weird Sisters Tap House and Brewery in North Charleston, South Carolina. Britt, thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to join me on the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
So can you please tell me what your role is there at the brewery?
So I am majority owner and head brewer.
Okay. And how long has Weird Sisters been open?
We are about to celebrate our 1-year anniversary, actually, on December 20th.
Oh, great. Congratulations. Do you have
Yeah,
anything special planned for that?
We're going to do like a winter solstice party. So we have 2 new beers coming out, and then 2 of our most requested beers to repeat from the year will also be released that day. And then some other fun activities will be happening.
Awesome. That sounds like a lot of fun. Well, if we were doing that kind of a celebration up here in the north, we'd be doing it in the snow, so I don't think you'll be doing that.
No, we're hoping for a solid 60 degrees that day.
60 degrees. So the name and the spelling of your brewery is a little bit different. Can you tell me a little bit about that as well?
Yeah, absolutely. The Weird Sisters are from Norse mythology. So the maiden, the mother, the crone. In Greek mythology, they would also be known as like the Fates. So the most common reference that people would get them from is they're the witches from Macbeth.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it worked out really nicely. There are 3 owners. So there's 3 witches. And then we are majority female owned, so having the sisters in there, and then everything we brew is a little weird. So it just kind of all worked out. And plus, we love the history and we love the mythology. And one of our big things about making beer too is past, present, future, which is what the witches stand for. I've done a few historic past style beers that are just a lot of fun. And I just did a collaboration with Rusty Bowl here, and we made a gruit. It's the first one I've seen in Charleston. So that was a lot of fun. And then obviously you still have to do the kind of stuff that everybody wants right now. You don't really have a choice. But for most of it, we really like to push the limits and see what more can beer do? Where else can it go?
Gruits are fun. The history of the gruit is very interesting because essentially brewers just used to find whatever they could forage and then throw it all in and say, okay, here we go. We got a beer.
Oh, yeah.
So what did you put into your gruit?
We did bitter orange peel, fresh ginger, and spruce tips.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And we made it more as a red base.
Okay. We get a lot of spruce tip kind of beers up here in the north, especially in the wintertime, where people go out and they'll forage the fresh spruce. And I love those kind of beers. I just think it adds such a great essence to it. So I just can't imagine the orange and the spruce. I mean, it just sounds so, and the ginger, that just sounds so great.
Well, the ginger is great. It's a great replacement for hops. It's a natural preservative like hops are. So it really gives you that bitter undertone that you're expecting from the hop character without having the hops. You can always balance the amount that you're using, whether you want to taste it or not. A lot of gruits have it, but have just enough to make it do the things that it needs to without you actually realizing that there's any in the beer itself.
What kind of base grain did you use with that?
So we used a local, just 2-row from a country malt in North Carolina, and then a little bit of golden and a little bit of caramel 40.
Okay. That sounds really nice. I can imagine, like you said, nice amber color.
Yeah, we were going for red IPA without the hops, obviously. Yeah. I think we got pretty close, actually. It was a nice, hoppy amber, I would say, with obviously no hops. So it was a lot of fun. I have a lot of fun ideas to come up with some more. Now I got, I did it once, I got the itch. I'm like, what else can I do with this?
Yeah. There was a brewery I had on, I think they were either first or second season. Their name is Archival, and they're based up in the Grand Rapids, Michigan area. And all they do is historical beers. So I'm a big fan of that kind of style of beer, or genre of beer, maybe it's a better thing to say, just because you get Satis and the Gruits, and they're pulling all sorts of crazy ideas out of the historical books. And it's just a really neat thing to experience because I think here especially in the US, I think we get kind of used to the standard, the IPAs, the lagers, the pilsners, and it's just nice to have something that's a little bit weird, a little bit different.
Right.
And how did your customer base respond to it? Did they really like it as well?
Yeah, actually, it went over really well. I expected it to last a little bit longer than it actually did. It was a fun way to get to talk to people, because they would ask. and you get to have conversations and kind of educate, and then it's exciting. So now they want to try it. And then how many people came back and was like, yeah, I want another one. I was like, all right, I'm here for this. Like, let's go. Yeah, it was really nice how people responded to it.
So you said you've been itching to do something else historical. What kind of style are you thinking about at this point?
Oh, so I want to play with Gruits more.
Oh, okay.
I want to do like a dark version, a light version. I'm going to try to figure out how to do a sour version. I just really want to play with the concept of using whatever malts I want, basically, and not using any hops. And then another one that's more historical, but not quite that far back. I really want to do a braggot here soon.
Okay. Another one of my favorite breweries, that was one of the things he did well, were braggots. And for those that may not know, it's kind of a cross between a beer and a mead. It's kind of somewhere in between. But certainly there's a lot you can do with a braggot for sure.
Yeah.
So your logo also is pretty fun. Can you tell me a little bit about that and kind of what it represents?
Well, I hate to say it, it doesn't really represent anything. It's just us. We obviously picked out the name first. So it had the cauldron to represent the witches.
Okay.
Nature is super involved in the witchy element of things. So that's kind of where the tree comes from. And then, of course, the tree symbolizes like growth and all those things, which we were trying to like implant into our business. And then, well, we're not just witchy, we're also a metal brewery.
Okay.
So that's why the skull's in there, to kind of try to tie all of it together and just give you an idea of like the place that you're about to walk into.
All right. And see, now I'm really intrigued, Britt, because at heart, I'm an 80s metalhead. Anytime I walk in and, you hear Black Sabbath playing or Ozzy Osbourne or whoever, it's like, okay, I'm going to like this place a lot. So how do you choose your music?
So they're actually mostly our personal playlists. We use an app called Soundtracks, but it's basically through Spotify. So we get to upload our personal playlists into it, and as long as it has the right license, it can play through. So Thad and I both are big metal fans, but we have also very drastically different tastes in metal also,
Okay.
which is, I think, so much fun. So when you come in, our playlists, like we built one together that we can constantly add to, and we just randomly like re-upload it. So you get a little taste of like 80s metal, but there will also be some bands that are very, very new that people haven't heard of yet. You might hear Fame on Fire doing a Taylor Swift cover 1 second, and then the next second it'll be like Lorna Shore just growling your ears off, because metal is so diverse and so many people like it that don't know that they like it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's a great way. If you hear one song, you're like, oh, I really like this. And you hear the next one, you're like, all right, I wouldn't have listened to that, but like I can get into this. It's basically just personal preference at this point. But we also get a lot of recommendations. We've definitely are becoming known for the fact that we do the metal, and that's what we are. So if there's a show in town, people will come beforehand and hang out with us, or they'll come the next day and they'll be like, oh my God, they played the song. I've never heard it before. Can you check and see if we can add this to the playlist? So it's a lot of fun. It's a good way for little metalheads to meet other metalheads.
And I think it's interesting that you said that people will listen to a song and then go, I didn't know I really liked that. I think beer is the same. You can draw the same parallel, because I know a lot of people who will say, I'll never drink beer. But if I took them to a true craft brewery and had them try a sour or something that wasn't a hoppy, like an IPA, they would realize they really like it. I think that's the beauty of the craft industry, is that it is so diverse. And there are so many options out there that there probably is something for everybody if they were willing to try it just one time.
It's actually what I was talking to one of our customers about that the other day, because she had told me she didn't like beer. And we had a cream soda seltzer on, which I know isn't technically beer, it's seltzer, but same lines. And I got her to try it, and I was like, oh, well, if you really like this, you should try this thing. And I got her to try something else. And I was like, it's not that you don't like beer, it's that you haven't had a good one in a style that you like yet.
Exactly.
It was like, you can't go and drink your normal stuff that you get at your local dive bar and decide. It's like going to the grocery store and picking up a bottle of wine and deciding you don't like wine, even though you've never had to buy it for yourself before, and you don't know what to look for and what you like and what you don't like. It's very similar.
And it's cool too. I mean, it's almost like, okay, throw down the gauntlet. I know you don't like beer, but I'm going to find something that you like. And because you're
Oh, yeah.
the head brewer, I know exactly what probably might fit into what you could possibly enjoy. So I got the lead on Weird Sisters from one of my beer skis, Daryl. He visited your tap room a few weeks back. I think he said he was at the Charleston Beer Fest. He
Mhm.
said the tap house and the brewery is pretty unique. Can you describe it for my listeners?
So it's a house.
Okay.
It is a old 1940s, possibly 50s. We don't have an exact date on it. House, and we left it that way. So you walk in, the bar would be where the kitchen is, essentially. Like literally, our bar top is made out of the original 1940s kitchen cabinets that were still there when we took the building over. And then it does have like a room off to the side that has couches in it, and then a room on the other side that's full of tables. You feel like you're at like your friend's house, just hanging out, instead of like you're at this bar. It's definitely not sterile. Let's say that. There's art all over the walls. Our really good friends and customers 3D print us all these crazy hysterical things that we put out everywhere. And then we have a huge backyard with an oak tree that I don't even want to know how old it is. It's massive. That takes up most of the backyard. So we have tables and shading, and it's a fun place. It gets compared to a house party a lot.
Okay. We're a big fan of the South ourselves. I mean, we usually go south, my wife and I do, for a month during the wintertime. Live oaks are just so cool, and having the Spanish moss hanging, is that kind of the picture I'm getting there? Okay, cool.
Exactly.
Very cool. So how many can you hold in your house?
We can have 50 people inside, but our yard is 4 times the size of our house. So we've had upwards of 200 and 300 people there.
Well, I like that because I think that it fits along with the whole Weird Sisters thing. It's different, but I think it also makes it maybe a little bit more inviting as well. So when you bring your friend along, you're saying, well, we're going to go to a craft brewery tonight, or we're going to go to a brewery, and you drive up to this house and they're like, what's going on here? And so I think it's really cool.
I think it gives off the vibes that you can talk to everybody around you. And I feel like a lot of bars have gotten, not by any fault of their own, but everyone's kind of gotten away from that. There are TVs hanging up everywhere. Everyone's just on their cell phones instead. And though obviously you can still sit there on your cell phone if you'd like, I'm probably not going to let you if you're sitting at the bar, because it's equally your job to entertain me as it is my job to entertain you if you choose to sit in one of my 6 bar seats. But we don't have any TVs. Well, we have one that shows our menu, but like we don't put TV on anything. But instead, we keep board games or card games behind the bar. And if it's a little bit slower, where we just are actually really getting to hang out with people, we'll pull a game out and we'll start playing games with you behind the bar. Or we have a big bookshelf in the room where you can grab one of, I think we're up to like 50 or 60 different board games and card games that you can grab to play on your own if you're sitting in one of the rooms. I wanted a neighborhood bar, and we are definitely getting there. It is the spot. We're in such a walkable neighborhood. So we have regulars that live in the apartments that you can see from the brewery that probably come 3 times a week because they're like, well, I was just going to sit at home and drink. I'd rather sit here and drink because I still feel like I'm home.
Right.
And I love that because I think it makes people feel more comfortable talking to us, to trying new things, to branching out some and building new relationships, not just with us, but with other people from the neighborhood or just other people from the city or even tourists that are going to the same concert. Like, it's been really cool to see people actually get involved with people instead of just sitting there on their cell phones.
I like it also, Britt, because I think, again, you mentioned that you're majority owner, you're the head brewer. I think we've seen over the past, like the last, let's say 5 years that I've really been engaged in the industry, I've seen there be a lot of change and more diversity in the industry. And I think that this is a great example of what that brings to the industry, is that you brought a different perspective. You've got this place that's inviting, it's friendly, it's unique, it's there to build community and to build relationship, which I just really love. I just think that's really cool.
Thank you.
Was that intentional when you started?
Yes. So if we want to get into it, I can tell you why Weird
Please.
Sisters started. So I moved from Maryland to South Carolina almost 5 years ago now. I was working at a different brewery, and that's how I met Thad. He was actually one of my regulars. We became really good friends, and we started bar hopping together like every Monday. We would go to a different brewery, we would check them all out, and every time we were there, I would give him this story about this brewery that I was at in Maryland that just gave me this vibe that was more, we're going to be best friends with the bartender here because that's what you're supposed to do when you're here. Like, that's what they want. I met one of my best friends from home by sitting at a different bar one day. Personally, didn't feel that here. It's not that there isn't a place for people to do that here. I just didn't find it for myself. So I was talking to Thad about it, and he kind of felt the same way. And I kind of made a joke and was like, well, what if we did it? And
Famous
it kind of
last
stopped
words.
there for about 2 or 3 months. Yeah. And then he looked at me a couple months later and he was like, were you serious? Do you want to do this? And I was like, yes, absolutely. Next thing you know, we have a homebrew kit. We started in the homebrew circuit. But the whole point of it and the reason that it got started is because we were missing that brewery that had that dive bar, not trashy dive bar, just regular dive bar, neighborhood feeling where people could come and hang out with other people and get to try something new every single time they were there. So it just kind of snowballed. And when we were finished and we were done building it, I was like, can I just move in here? This is exactly what you've got to think. We talked about it for 2.5 years before we actually got a building, trying to find the right space. Like, we waited until we found the right space to make our vision come to life.
So how did you choose North Charleston?
So the easy answer is I live here.
Okay.
So no, I absolutely fell in love with the neighborhood that we're in. Before I moved here, I got an Airbnb in every neighborhood, and this is just where I felt the most comfortable. So when we're talking about opening a business, it made sense to me to put it in the place where we feel the most comfortable because it's going to be an extension of who we are. The neighborhood itself is super inclusive and wonderfully welcoming to everybody. And that's exactly how we wanted to be also. We looked all around the North Charleston area. We definitely didn't want to go downtown. Honestly, it's just too expensive. And I was walking home one day. We had kind of just lost a different building that we were looking at. And I saw they were like literally hammering the for sale sign into the ground. And I like sent a picture and I was like, call them first thing in the morning. All from there.
Was there a lot of work that you had to do on the brewery before you opened?
Oh, yeah. It took us about 7 months to get it done. When I say it's a house, it was still very, very much a house. So we had to tear out a kitchen. We had to knock down a couple of walls, add a second bathroom. It was teal, so that definitely didn't fit our vibe.
No
So
coastal vibe there?
We're not exactly beachy themed. So
Metal Beach.
Right. So we had to repaint the inside and the outside. Obviously, when you're working on a building that old, every now and then when you take something down, you find things you don't expect. So it was a fun process, though, like getting to do it and getting to watch it transform into the picture that we had in our heads.
Last call.
It's nearly time to wrap things up, but first, one more for the road. This episode, I'm drinking Hemel and Ard from Brewery de Molen, located in the Netherlands. From the brewer. Hemel and Ard is brewed with the most heavily peated malts we could find. Not for the faint-hearted. This powerful brew overwhelms you with smoke, chocolate, and coffee. Translates as heaven and earth. Without further delay, So this is a 10% Imperial/Double Stout that comes in at a whopping 108 IBUs. Ooh. So on the bottle, it says that it is brewed and bottled in Bodegraven, the Netherlands. It also indicates that it's handcrafted, unfiltered, unpasteurized. Enjoy within 25 years. Keep cool and dark. Recommended drinking temperature, 10 degrees C, which is about 50 degrees Fahrenheit. So I did pour this out into a nice pint glass that came from Grand Armory Brewing, located in Grand Haven, Michigan. It poured a very deep, dark color. Very little head at all. No carbonation, very flat looking. As I poured it into the glass, I certainly started to get some of that smoke that was indicated in the description. Now, when I stick my nose into it a little bit and give it a deeper smell, yep, there is a lot of smoke in this. So they talk about heavily peated malts. I can see why this is exactly what they describe it as. I think this is going to be an interesting one. So, first sip impression. Yeah, this is every bit the 108 IBUs. The beginning part of the taste, I get some chocolate in there. But as that beer starts to hit the middle and the back of the tongue, then that bitterness really hits. And that peaty, smoky flavor just, it really overwhelms the palate. I can't remember exactly where I purchased this bottle from. It was on one of the trips that my wife and I had been on, and it was at a bottle shop. It was in a basement somewhere. But boy, my mouth is just coated with dryness and this peaty, kind of smoky vibe going on. I really, really wish that I had some smoked meat to go with this, because it would be perfect. You know, smoked beers aren't exactly my favorite. I think they're interesting. I was interested in this one because it came from the Netherlands. And it's an interesting beer. And now, as my palate has accustomed to this a little bit, the lingering flavor I have there is kind of a dark chocolate and coffee amidst that peaty, kind of smoky coating I'm getting on the palate. So I do like this beer. It's definitely very different. I don't think I could drink very many of these. And as I said, I think that it would be better paired with some food to really kind of help balance out that bitterness and that peaty smoke that's in there. Crazy. Well, I think I've had enough. So I give this one 3.5 tasters out of 5 on the flight board. Cheers, Brewery des Moulins. I'm always looking for new craft beverages to review. So if you've got one from your favorite local craft brewery, meadery, or cidery you'd like me to drink and describe, reach out and let me know. That's all for this episode of the 5 Beer Plan. With so many podcasts out there, thanks for choosing to listen to mine. Join me next time for the next step in the homebrew project, the continuation of my investigative beernalism with Britt from Weird Sisters, and review another beer. Remember to hit the subscribe button on your preferred podcast platform to be notified of new episodes. Follow me on Instagram as well, 5 Beer Plan 2022, to see what is happening on my personal ale trail. I'd love to hear from you, and there are several ways you may do so. Leave a comment for this episode on Spotify, direct message me on Instagram, or email me directly, 5beerplan@frontier.com. Be sure to support your local breweries, choose your beers wisely, and drink them responsibly. Until next time, keep walking your ale trail, and stay thirsty.